A fast food restaurant looks like one of the simplest businesses on earth. You find a busy corner, you put up a famous sign, you sell burgers, chicken, fries, coffee, or pizza. Cars line up at the drive-thru, the register keeps ringing, and at the end of the day, it feels like money must be pouring in. And sometimes it is. But the strange part is this. A fast food restaurant can serve thousands of customers, look packed from morning until midnight, and still be financially fragile. Because the business is not really built around selling a burger. It is built around turning a very expensive building on very expensive land, staffed by real people and filled with equipment that constantly breaks, into a machine that sells enough small transactions every minute to cover an enormous pile of costs. That changes the central question completely. The question is not, can I sell fast food? The question is, can I sell it fast enough, consistently enough, and profitably enough to keep every part of this machine alive? That is what owning a fast food restaurant actually means. At first, the business seems almost foolproof. People need to eat. A recognizable chain has national advertising. The menu is standardized. The recipes are designed. The supplier relationships already exist. Customers know what they are getting before they enter the parking lot. That is the appeal of franchising. You are not starting from nothing. You are buying access to a system. But access to a system is not the same thing as owning an easy business. A major fast food franchise can require an investment measured in the millions. For example, third-party summaries of McDonald's franchise disclosure materials have put estimated initial investment ranges for a new U.S. location roughly between $1.47 million and $2.73 million, although the exact number depends heavily on site, construction, equipment, and local conditions. That is not simply the cost of ovens and fryers, it is the cost of entering a highly engineered operating system. And once you are inside that system, the restaurant does not wait politely for you to make money. Rent starts. Loan payments start. Payroll starts. Utilities start. Maintenance starts. Food deliveries arrive. Corporate fees may be charged as a percentage of sales. Marketing contributions may also be tied to sales. The meter is running before the first lunch rush. This is the first hidden truth of fast food. It looks like a food business, but economically it behaves like a high-volume operations business. The food is only the visible product. What you are really selling is speed. Think about the drive-thru for a moment. To the customer, it is just convenience. Pull up, order, pay, get food, leave. But to the owner, every extra second matters. A slow drive-thru can mean fewer cars served during the lunch rush. Fewer cars means fewer transactions. Fewer transactions mean the kitchen team, the building, the equipment, and the manager are being paid to produce less revenue. That is why chains obsess over order accuracy, menu design, kitchen layouts, staffing schedules, drive-through lanes, app pickup shelves, and even whether a customer can decide what to order before reaching the speaker box. A fast food restaurant is a factory that happens to have customers inside it. The factory has raw materials: buns, chicken, potatoes, cups, syrup, packaging, sauces, and cooking oil. It has labor. It has equipment. It has quality control. It has waste. It has maintenance. And it has a production target every day. But unlike a normal factory, demand is unpredictable. At 12:10 p.m., you may have a line of cars wrapping around the building. At 2:15 p.m., the dining room may be nearly empty. You cannot simply turn off all the costs during the slow period. That is where the economics become unforgiving. The restaurant industry often focuses on something called prime cost. In plain language, that means the two giant costs needed to produce and serve the meal: food and labor. The National Restaurant Association reported that for limited service restaurants, median prime costs, food, beverage, and labor combined, were 65 cents of every dollar in sales. Its broader research has also described food and labor as the largest restaurant cost categories, each around 33 cents of the sales dollar in a general restaurant context. So take a simple example. A restaurant collects $1,000 in sales. Before it is paid rent, utilities, franchise-related fees, insurance, maintenance, technology, credit card processing, repairs, cleaning supplies, taxes, or loan payments, a large share may already be gone to ingredients and people. That does not mean the business is doomed. It means the remaining dollars have a lot of work to do. And this is where a packed restaurant can become deceptive. Suppose sales rise, but the cost of chicken, beef, cooking oil, packaging, or wages rises even faster. The location may look busier. The daily sales total may even look higher. But the owner may be earning less from every customer. A line of cars can hide a shrinking margin. That is why fast food operators are so sensitive to tiny percentages. A small increase in food cost does not sound dramatic. Neither does an extra minute of labor per order. Neither does a few more wrong orders each hour. But multiply those small leaks across thousands of transactions every day, across an entire year, and the result can be enormous. One extra packet of sauce, too much product thrown away, a refrigerator failure, a shift that is overstaffed during a slow afternoon, a discount that increases sales but reduces the average profit on each order. Individually, these are small operational details. Together, they decide whether the restaurant is a business or a very expensive job. And that leads to a counterintuitive discovery. In fast food, selling more is not always enough. It sounds wrong. If sales go up, the owner should be better off. Usually, more sales help, but not automatically. If a restaurant drives more traffic through deep discounting, expensive delivery platform promotions, or low-margin menu items, it can add transactions without adding enough profit. If the kitchen cannot handle the demand, wait times rise. If wait times rise, customers abandon the line, leave bad reviews, or decide not to return. If the staff is stretched too thin, order mistakes increase. Now the restaurant is issuing refunds, remaking meals, and losing future customers. The very rush that looks like success can expose a weak system. Fast food is less like filling a bucket and more like running a conveyor belt at high speed. If one part slows down, everything behind it begins to pile up. The grill runs behind. The fries are not ready. The drive-thru timer rises. Cars leave. The dining room team gets pulled into the kitchen. Tables are not cleaned. Online orders accumulate. Staff morale drops. A manager calls in extra labor to stabilize the shift. Now labor costs rise on a day when sales may already be slipping. One failure does not stay in one place. It spreads through the operation. This is also why location is so powerful. The right restaurant on the right corner can benefit from traffic patterns that took decades to develop. Commuters heading to work, parents driving children to school, shoppers leaving a retail center, travelers exiting a highway, employees on lunch breaks, or late-night customers with few alternatives. The wrong site can be almost impossible to rescue. A restaurant may have great food, a respected brand, and hardworking employees, but if drivers cannot easily turn into the property, if the building is hidden, if the neighborhood changes, if a road construction project disrupts access, or if a competitor opens beside it, the economics can shift quickly. That is why in many franchise systems, the company's power is not limited to branding and menu design. Control over real estate can matter enormously. McDonald's, for example, has long generated revenue from franchised restaurants through rent and royalties. Its annual filings describe conventional franchised restaurant revenue as including rent and royalties based on restaurant sales, with minimum rent components as well. That does not mean every franchise arrangement works exactly the same way. They do not. But it reveals an important principle. The restaurant operator may be selling food, while the larger system can also earn from the site itself, the brand, the supply chain, and the recurring percentage of sales. The customer thinks they are buying a meal. The franchisee is operating a store. The franchisor may be managing an entire economic ecosystem, and in that ecosystem, scale becomes a major advantage. A single restaurant owner has limited leverage. If a freezer dies, it is a crisis. If an employee quits before a Saturday rush, it is a crisis. If one location underperforms, there may be nowhere else to absorb the pressure. A multi-unit operator can sometimes move managers, share staff, centralize accounting, negotiate better services, and spread overhead across more stores. But scale has a darker side. When a multi-unit operator carries debt or weak locations, those weak locations can begin damaging the healthy ones. The problem is not merely that one store loses money. The problem is that the operator may still have leases, loans, supplier bills, payroll, and franchise obligations across an entire network. That is exactly what made the story of Tom's King Holdings so revealing. Tom's King was a Burger King franchisee operating 90 restaurants across Ohio, Pennsylvania, Virginia, and Illinois. In January 2023, it filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection. Reports at the time said the operator faced rising costs, declining traffic, and substantial debt. Restaurant Dive reported approximately $49 million owed to creditors, including roughly $35 million in secured debt to Bank of America. The important part is not that a Burger King franchisee failed. Any company can fail. The important part is what the failure demonstrates about the fast food business model. Tom's King did not operate one obscure restaurant with no customers. It operated 90 locations under one of the world's most recognized fast food brands. Yet, the brand alone could not erase the math. When inflation increases food and labor costs, margins tighten. When customer traffic weakens, the fixed costs do not disappear. Rent is still due. Debt is still due. Equipment still needs maintenance. Franchise obligations remain. And if multiple locations are underperforming at the same time, the operator can lose the flexibility needed to recover. That is the chain reaction. Higher costs reduce margins. Reduced margins weaken cash flow. Weak cash flow makes it harder to pay rent, suppliers, lenders, and maintenance bills. Deferred maintenance and staffing pressure can hurt the customer experience. A weaker customer experience can reduce traffic. Then the original problem comes back even larger. It is not one bad quarter anymore. It becomes a system that is losing its ability to stabilize itself. The lesson is not that fast food is a bad business. In the best cases, it can be extraordinarily durable. A restaurant with a great site, strong management, disciplined staffing, fast service, reliable quality, healthy local demand, and a powerful brand can generate substantial sales year after year. Still, high sales are not the finish line. They're the beginning of a harder question. How much of those sales survive after every claim on the business has been paid? The optimistic version of fast food is a famous brand, a busy drive-thru, predictable demand, and a store that generates strong cash flow. The realistic successful version is less glamorous. It is constant cost control, staffing discipline, maintenance, local marketing, inventory management, operational speed, and a manager who notices small problems before they become expensive ones. The realistic negative outcome is a restaurant that looks active but cannot produce enough cash after food, labor, rent, fees, and debt. And the failure scenario is brutal. Traffic falls, costs rise, the owner has little room to maneuver, and the business becomes trapped by obligations created when the future looked more certain. So, what is a fast food restaurant really? It is not a burger stand with a drive-thru. It is a high-speed financial machine where every meal must help pay for land, labor, logistics, technology, debt, equipment, and seconds. The food gets the customer through the door, but the real product is a system that must work perfectly thousands of times a day.